Owen Calloway sat on a park bench, a coffee in hand that had long since lost its flavor, observing the leaves drift down in October's gentle embrace, where gravity alone dictated their descent, unfettered by the wind. His mind wandered aimlessly, which was precisely why he frequented this spot on Saturday mornings, to escape the confines of his apartment, the workplace, and the grief that had settled within him for 2 years, a weight he had grown so accustomed to that it often felt like a part of him rather than the sorrow it truly was. His thoughts were blank when 4 small girls, clad in matching green coats and olive beanies, paused before him. The closest girl pointed at his arm and declared, "Our mom has a tattoo just like yours." He turned his gaze to her, then to the tattoo on his forearm, one he had inked 11 years prior, an original design that held deep personal meaning. It was a compass with a broken needle, a single stem without a flower, and a small bird in mid-flight, caught in the balance of not arriving and not departing. Owen felt frozen in that moment. His name was Owen Calloway, age 38, with a unique tattoo that embodied elements he had never fully articulated to anyone. He had approached a tattoo artist named Marco, who studied his sketch for an extended period before remarking, "This is the saddest happy thing I have ever been asked to put on someone." Owen simply replied, "Yeah," and Marco assured him he would execute it properly. And he did. For 11 years, that tattoo had been visible to countless people, but only a handful had inquired about it, and none had truly acknowledged its significance until now, when a 7-year-old girl in a park pointed and uttered those 8 words. He remained motionless, the 4 girls scrutinizing him with that patient, expectant gaze children often possess when they seek a genuine answer from an adult, hopping for honesty rather than the evasive responses adults sometimes give. He responded, "Your mom has the same one," the girl clarified, "not the same, similar same, her bird is different, hers is landing." A sensation stirred in his chest when he couldn't quite identify. "What's your mom's name?" he asked. Just then a woman's voice called from behind, "Girls, come here please, right now." He looked up to see her approaching briskly from the playground, her hair flowing behind her, her face reflecting the unmistakable concern of a parent who has lost sight of her children for a brief moment and is calculating the potential risks involved. She reached the girls, instinctively placing her hands on the nearest 2, ensuring they were all accounted for. Their eyes met, and she glanced at his arm. The park remained alive with sounds. Children's laughter echoed in the background, a dog rustled through the leaves, and the city hummed at its usual pace. Yet amidst this, a silence enveloped them. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "I drew it 11 years ago and had it done by Marco on Clement Street," he replied. "Marco retired," she stated. "I heard that," he responded, a moment of recognition passing between them, while the 4 girls observed with the keen interest of children aware that something significant was unfolding around them. "I'm Nora," she introduced herself. "Owen," he replied. "Your bird is between," she noted. "Yours is landing," he countered. She settled onto the bench, not through a conscious decision but simply because her body required a moment of rest. The girls arranged themselves around the bench, sensing that the adults were about to engage in conversation and choosing to stay close in case anything noteworthy occurred. Nora Callahan was 36, mother to 4 daughters named Willa, June, Bee, and Rue, who were 7 years old and bore an identical resemblance that often drew stares from strangers. This had been their reality for years, leading the sisters to develop a collective response that varied from patient acceptance to dramatic annoyance, depending on the observer. Nora had gotten her tattoo 8 years ago, 6 months after her husband left, not in a fit of anger but quietly, choosing a different path that she eventually learned to respect, despite the initial shock it brought. At 28, with newborn quadruplets, she faced the sudden transformation of her marriage into a co-parenting arrangement, her future now shrouded in uncertainty. She sought to create something permanent that belonged solely to her, a mark of her own choosing. After sketching her design, a compass with a broken needle, a stem without a flower, a bird in the process of landing, she visited Marco, who studied her work before echoing the same sentiment he had shared with Owen years later. When she remarked that someone else had shared that thought with him, he confirmed it was true, and she felt a connection to another stranger. Sitting there in that October park, she gazed at Owen's arm and then into his eyes, reflecting on how both had walked out of Marco's shop with ink that originated from the same place, despite never having met before. "The broken compass," she said. "For when you do know where you're headed," he replied. "The stem with no flower," she continued. "For what hasn't yet come to pass," he added. "The bird," she said. "In the in-between, still figuring things out," he explained. "Mine is landing." "So you figured it out," he observed. She turned to her daughters, who were now engrossed in a pile of leaves, collaborating like a small research team. "I've figured out the most essential part. The rest I'm still navigating," she admitted. Before continuing, it's important to acknowledge that this moment, the bench, the morning, this encounter that felt serendipitous, was the result of countless small decisions made by ordinary individuals, each unaware of the impact of their actions. There was a woman named Sylvie, Nora's neighbor during the challenging first year post-separation, who, despite having 3 children and a busy life, brought food to Nora's door every Thursday evening for 6 months, offering to watch the Bobbies so Nora could recharge. Sylvie's gestures were never labeled as acts of kindness. She simply knocked on Thursdays and kept doing so. Nora frequented that park every Saturday for 4 years, because a pediatrician named Dr. Huang once mentioned the importance of outdoor play for children, suggesting it fosters a sense of ease that indoor children often lack. Nora committed to that advice, crafting her Saturdays around it without fail for 4 years, while Dr. Huang remained oblivious to the ritual she established. Owen had been visiting a coffee cart run by Felix at the park entrance for 2 years, during which Felix began adding an extra shot to Owen's coffee 6 months prior, having noticed his weary demeanor. Felix never mentioned this addition, and Owen never questioned why his coffee had improved. Sylvie's Thursday visits helped Nora regain her strength. Dr. Huang's casual remarks shaped her Saturdays, and Felix's extra shot kept Owen seated long enough to encounter those 4 girls in green coats. None of them understood how their small acts intertwined, yet they were simply decent people engaging in the everyday, unremarkable actions that were anything but unremarkable in the grand scheme of things. This is the essence of kindness tailies. They conversed for an hour, shifting the focus away from the tattoo after the initial exchange. They shared stories about Willa, June, Bee, and Rue. Owen joked that the name sounded like a folk album or a law firm, prompting a joyful laugh from Nora. He spoke of his work as a carpenter, creating custom furniture, and the patience required to understand each piece of wood before giving it form. Nora discussed her role as an occupational therapist in a pediatric clinic 3 days a week, balancing that with raising her 4 daughters. They explored the concept of solitude, not quite loneliness, but an awareness of its unique weight. They spoke of grief, not dramatically, but as 2 individuals who had carried it long enough to lose their fear of numbing it. He shared his experience of the past 2 years, and she didn't pry into the details, simply sensing that his journey had a definitive before and after, and that he was still discovering what the after looked like. She recounted her own 4-year journey, and he understood that it had been both challenging and enriching, leading her to become someone she respected more than before. The girls returned periodically from their leaf exploration, reporting back before diving into their investigation once more. Willa, who had pointed out the tattoo initially, approached Owen, scrutinizing his arm with a seriousness that suggested she was reconfirming a memory. "Yours is a better bird," she stated. "Yours is braver," he countered. She pondered this thoughtfully. "How do you know?" she asked. "Because landing takes more courage than flying," he replied. She glanced at her mother and then back at him. "Mom says that too." With that, she returned to her sisters. Nora and Owen exchanged looks, a comfortable silence enveloping them as they both appreciated the moment without rushing to fill it with words. Soon, Rue, the youngest by 4 minutes, approached, declaring her hunger and suggesting they head to the place known for its delicious soup. "In a minute," Nora replied. You always say in a minute, Rue retorted. Because it's always true, Nora explained, turning to Owen. There's a place on the corner that serves good soup if you're free. Owen glanced at his now empty coffee cup, which had been untouched for 30 minutes. I don't have anywhere to be, he said. They left the park together, the girls ahead, moving instinctively, while Owen and Nora walked at a leisurely pace, engaged in a conversation that felt far from urgent. The leaves continued their gentle fall around them in October's tranquil way, untouched by the wind, with time simply flowing as it does. Sometimes, if you find yourself on the right bench at the right moment, with the right tattoo on your arm, something extraordinary can unfold, set in motion by 4 small girls in matching green coats who paused, pointed, and spoke the truth they knew. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder of the unexpected and authentic connections in life. Subscribe to Kindness Tales for more stories of courage, connection, and the quiet moments that can alter everything. Sometimes, the universe orchestrates events, and on rare occasions, it utilizes the insights of 7-year-olds to do so. Welcome to Kindness Tales. We're delighted to have you here.